Winter in Montana means a white death. Miles upon miles of snow-covered mountains and skeletal pine forests. Seeing the temperature drop to minus 30 degrees is a common occurrence here. I am Elias Thorne, a veteran locomotive engineer for the Union Pacific Railroad. For 35 years, I have ridden in the belly of these iron beasts, traversing the length and breadth of America. I have seen many storms, many accidents. But that night in November 1999 inflicted a wound upon my soul that will not heal until my dying day. That day, I was on duty aboard the Iron Horse 707, a massive freight train. Our route was from Missoula to Sandpoint, Idaho. This route is known as one of the most dangerous railways in America, especially the area known as Blackwood Gorge. Locals say Blackwood Gorge is the devil's playground. In 1924, a horrific train accident occurred here. 300 passengers died. Their bodies and the train carriages were never recovered from the deep abyss. My assistant engineer, or brakeman, was Leonard Leo Miller, a strapping young man of 25, just finished his training. This was his first big night trip. It was 11 p.m. The train left the Missoula yard. Outside, a fierce blizzard had begun. The wipers on the windshield were thrashing madly, but the sheet of snow was so thick that the powerful halogen headlights could not pierce more than 20 feet. Behind us lay 80 wagons, loaded with coal and heavy machinery. The first hour went smoothly. The cabin heater was humming. Leo was telling me stories from his college days. But as soon as we neared Blackwood Pass, the atmosphere changed. It was 12:10 a.m. Suddenly, a strange sound began on the radio communication. Static, hiss, crackle. At first, it sounded like interference, but if you listened closely, it sounded like many people whispering behind the noise. Leo turned the knob and said, "Elias, it seems the storm is disturbing the signal. I can't hear the dispatcher at all." I said, "Maybe. It happens in the mountains. Keep your eyes on the gauges." Suddenly, the radio roared with a loud burst of static, and from within it, a clear voice of a child floated out. "Mama, look at the pretty lights. Mama, it's so cold." Leo jumped and looked at me. "Did you hear that, Elias? Was that a child's voice? Where would a child's voice come from on this frequency?" I tried to keep myself calm. "Maybe. It's a ham radio signal crossing over. Ignore it." But inside, my chest tightened. We had arrived right at the mouth of Blackwood Gorge. From here, the tracks twisted like a snake along the edge of the cliff. On the right, a sheer rock wall. On the left, a 1,000-foot drop into the abyss. Suddenly, the train began to slow down. I checked the throttle. It was fine, but it felt as if someone was pulling the train from behind. The massive diesel engine groaned in protest. The RPM needle began to fluctuate wildly. "Leo, check the rear pressure. It feels like the brakes are jammed," I shouted. Leo stared at the monitor, terrified. "Everything looks normal, sir. But the weight of the train is increasing. The sensors show our load has suddenly doubled." "Impossible. How can the load increase on a moving train?" Right then, a light appeared, piercing through the fog in front of us, right in the middle of the tracks. About 200 yards away, Someone was standing, holding a lantern. The light was not yellow, but a strange, pale blue. I slammed on the horn. Honk! The deafening sound of the freight train echoed off the mountain walls, but the lantern bearer did not move. I reached for the emergency brake, but my hand froze. As we got closer, the scene became horrifyingly clear. That was no human. It was a skeletal body, wearing a conductor's uniform from the 1920s. The uniform was torn to shreds, revealing rotting flesh and bone underneath. Where his face should have been, there was no skin, only exposed teeth. He was slowly swinging his lantern, signaling us to stop. Leo screamed in terror. "Hit the brakes, Elias. We're going to kill him." I pulled the brake lever all the way back. The wheels locked, throwing sparks onto the tracks. The million-ton train groaned and screeched as it slid forward. I thought for sure we would crush the man. But just moments before the engine bumper touched him, he vanished like smoke. The train came to a halt with a violent jerk, right in the middle of Blackwood Bridge. This bridge was built over the gorge between two mountains. Looking down, even in daylight, you see nothing. And tonight was the new moon, pitch black. Everything fell silent. The engine noise stopped. Only the sound of the storm remained. Whoosh! Whoosh! Leo was trembling. What was that, Elias? I grabbed the flashlight. I don't know. Maybe a hallucination. We have to go down and check the brakes. We have to see why the train stopped. We both put on heavy jackets and climbed down with flashlights. Outside, the cold was bone-breaking. Standing in the wind was a struggle. I was checking the engine wheels when suddenly a smell hit my nose. Burnt coal and sulfur. But our train runs on diesel. Why would there be a smell of coal? Leo suddenly dug his fingernails into my arm. Elias, look at the track next to us. There is only one track on Blackwood Bridge. But we watched in horror. Parallel to our train, floating in the empty air over the gorge, was another railway track. And standing on that track was a massive, black steam engine. The train was ancient, rusted. Black smoke poured from its chimney, mixing with the fog to form grotesque shapes. Written in gold letters on the side of the engine were the words, "Silver Arrow, 1924. A pale light glowed from every window of that train. I walked toward it like I was hypnotized. The glass windows were broken, and inside, there were passengers sitting, but none of them were normal. Some had crushed heads. Some were missing half their bodies. Some were pierced by shards of glass. They were all staring at us. Their eyes were white, blank, soulless. Suddenly, from one of the carriages, a little girl placed her hand on the window. Her hand passed through the glass, reaching out into the cold air. She whispered, "Come with us. It is warm here. There is fire." Leo screamed, No, I won't go." But I saw Leo walking toward that ghostly train, like a moth to a flame, as if some invisible force was pulling him. "Leo, don't go there. It's not real." I grabbed his jacket and pulled him back. But Leo pushed me away with unbelievable strength. I fell onto the snow. "They are calling me, Elias. They need tickets. I have the tickets." Leo jumped and landed on the floating step of the ghost train. Instantly, hundreds of dead passengers inside that train screamed in unison. That scream was not human. It sounded like thousands of vultures shrieking together. Leo walked inside the train. I saw a conductor, the same one whose face I had seen on the tracks earlier, place a hand on Leo's shoulder. In a split second, Leo's body withered, turning black and dry, as if someone had sucked all the life out of him. I couldn't take it anymore. I crawled and ran toward my engine. Behind me, the sound of the ghost train's wheels began to turn. Chug, chug, chug. It felt like the steam engine was going to collapse on top of me. I somehow grabbed the railing, climbed into my cabin, and locked the door. But even inside the cabin, I was not safe. The temperature suddenly spiked. I looked in the rearview mirror. Standing behind me was that conductor. The lantern in his hand was now a ball of burning fire. He brought his face close to my ear and whispered, "Why are you leaving? We need a driver. Our train is at the bottom of the gorge. It needs to be driven." I pulled out the crucifix my wife gave me from my pocket. I didn't know if it would work, but I held it right in front of his face and punched the emergency restart button. "In the name of God, be gone, demon." The engine roared to life with a deafening noise. Vroom! I pushed the throttle to the limit. The train lurched forward violently. Behind me, the steam engine's whistle blew. Choo! The sound felt like it would burst my eardrums. I didn't look back, not once. I just stared ahead, praying to escape this hell. About 10 minutes later, I crossed Blackwood Gorge and came down to the plains. The ghostly sound slowly faded away. The radio crackled, and the dispatcher's voice returned. "Iron Horse 707, do you copy? We lost your signal." I replied, my voice trembling uncontrollably. I'm here, but Leo is gone. He fell. After reaching Sandpoint, the police and railway authorities interrogated me. They didn't believe a word I said. They assumed I had pushed Leo, or he had fallen by accident. For 3 days, they searched the bottom of Blackwood Gorge, but there was no trace of Leo. Not his body, not his jacket, nothing. It was as if he had dissolved into the wind. But the police did recover one thing. 500 feet down in the gorge, amidst the wreckage of the 1924 train, they found a railway hat. It was Leo's hat, but looking at it, it seemed like it had been buried underground for at least 50 years. It was old, rotting, and covered in moss. My license was revoked on grounds of mental instability. I was forced into retirement. Today, I live in a quiet, secluded cabin in Montana, far away from the railway tracks, but still deep in the winter nights. When the blizzard howls, I hear a train whistle in the wind. Not a diesel horn, but an old-fashioned steam whistle. And with it comes Leo's voice. "Elias, the train is leaving. When will you come? I know, the day I die, no heaven or hell awaits me. Instead, that black train, the Silver Arrow, will be waiting for me. And I will be its eternal driver."